All right. Welcome, friends and writers of the Right Now community. We are here for a special Scary Sunday live stream as we really just talk about the flash, the fla fla,
The
as we
flop
talk
flop
about the
flash,
freaky, yeah, the
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 flippy
flash,
flighty flash fiction competition.
the flish flash competition.
F quadrupled.
As where so today we're going to just chat about and have a really honest discussion about the competition in general. So today's stream is very casual. This is designed as a conversation. So we invite you to come join the conversation and let us know what were your thoughts about it. What were things that you loved? What were things that might have been a little frustrating? Or what were things that you're like, hey, if you do this again, what would you like to see next time? So we're going to be doing all of it. I, of course, have my lovely host, Miss Penelope Hartley here. Lovely, lovely. Thank you for joining us, Penelope. And by the way, I'm probably going to do this a couple times, but I just have to give an incredible, huge shout out to Penelope. I would not have been able to put this competition together without Penelope. So we're going to be going through the entire process of what it looked like, but I think that should go without saying. This competition was not possible without Penelope, and of course our lovely, lovely host that we love to hate, Miss Jezebel. So, yep. So excellent, awesome, and then we of course have one of our favorite writers from the community here, Mr. ML Claxon. One of our finalists in the competition. Thanks for joining us, ML.
Jezebel's technical difficulties are things to live for, aren't they?
I wouldn't say that, but yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
actually made things interesting.
I'm curious, what were your favorite moments from the competition? Drop them down in the comments. I would love to know, what were your favorite moments? I was like, all right, I'll create a banner that's worth it. No, I guess I should probably do a YouTube. What were your guys' favorite moments? Penelope, I'd love to hear why I set up a YouTube poll.
My favorite moment, oh my god, like that first just the first welcome right after Jezebel's introduction. When nothing had gone terribly wrong with Jezebel yet, and I looked like Spock, and I was just having a great time. that was the eye of the storm for me, and that was fabulous. I love how much the readers enjoyed reading the stories and the kind of feedback that they gave to the community. I thought that was amazing. Like, if I was kind of like, man, I was a little disappointed that I was co-hosting because I kind of wanted to submit and get some awesome feedback.
You know how many of our guest readers, when I sent them the email, they're like, wait, can I submit? Or by the time I responded to them, they're like, oh, the submission deadline already passed.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so, because it was a lot of it was so much fun. I mean, it wasn't just like a writing competition, it was also kind of a carnival. In a way, you know, where we had like so many things lined up, and so many, it was like little theaters and little macabre theaters, 12 of them set up for people to enjoy. And I just love the atmosphere of that.
Yeah, and then so everyone, let's see. So you guys know, first off, I want to hear what your favorite moments were. Let's see, favorite moments. I created a poll, favorite moments. And actually, ML, what was your favorite moment from the overall competition, start to finish?
Well, learning what flash fiction was, I mean, before the competition was announced, I had never heard of flash fiction. So I was happy to learn about it, and then obsessed with editing. But I had fun, and, you know, all the stories, I mean, all 12 stories were wonderful. So,
yeah, we had some really, really great story submissions. Like, that was hard. It was hard to narrow down the story submissions. It really was.
It took us, what, like 6 hours, I think, like not an exaggeration. I think
We went back and forth
6 hours.
so many times
Yeah.
on which ones that we had to let go, which ones that wouldn't make finalists. So like definitely any of our finalists who made the 12, like poof. Definitely it was so cool. And I think my favorite part was less the competition itself. I mean, I'm biased. I loved when I was passing in the hallway, old Grandpa Koff. I love passing Grandpa Koff on as I went to go deal with Jezebel. I would have to admit that was one of my favorite parts. But from the overall competition, did you guys like that?
Did you like that?
He seemed like he was in a rush. Old Grandpa Koff.
No, he was for an old guy. He can really move.
I know, right?
Yeah.
He didn't seem to have the greatest memory though, from what I've seen.
Oh no.
He's been reading too many Scarecrow stories.
If I only had a brain.
Did we ever find out if somebody got him to the home last night?
I guess that's one of those mysteries that we'll have to see in the future. Hopefully. I mean, when I was watching the replay, he seemed a little forgetful, but I think if he's made it to this point in time, I have faith.
Either that or he's wandering around in the middle of nowhere on a yellow brick road.
Screaming scarecrows.
Yeah.
Or Jezebel, one of the two.
With Jezebel and Grandpa Coughed on the yellow brick road going God knows where. That is a fanfic I want to read.
Could Jezebel go out and look for some in the cornfields to see if maybe he's looking for that lost scarecrow?
I should probably go check on him.
I want to know when the spoof version comes out, the spoof of the Wizard of Oz with Jezebel and her like growing group of minions.
Like she is the dark force that's going to fight Oz in the
it'll be the Wicked retelling. It'll be
yeah, but no, they already did that, huh? Maybe she's like they could go back in history and she could be like the first evil or something.
So instead of flying monkeys, is Jezebel going to have flying iguanas?
She's right. Yeah, I actually, when I wrote Useful Idiots, like I had just started my book talk bookshelf, and she's the host of Useful Idiots, and I was looking for like a wet specimen of an iguana to put on it because I figured that she would really appreciate that. And they make them now, like you can get this guy sells like collected wet specimens that was an iguana foot, but like you can put glitter in it. I'm like, what? I got like part of me is like, yes, but also like, why would you want a glittery wet specimen? Like, I mean, I'm a little weird, so I get it. But anyway, you know what? She had bats, now it's flying iguanas. Yes, to answer your question, yes.
I think of my favorite moment of the entire competition from the very beginning to the very end. I would say, and I wasn't expecting this, I didn't know how the community would respond to it, but I absolutely loved how much inspiration it inspired to just the writers of the community. And I loved how people were getting so hyped up and interested just in the act of writing. Even though it was flash fiction's like a different style, to me, that is success because I love the writing process so much. So when we're able to create things that elevates the art of writing itself, I think that is always a win. Now, I think that there are definitely a lot of opportunities from the competition, and we definitely had a lot of learnings. So before we get into some of our like key learnings and feedback, I also have some big announcements. So I have a couple big announcements. So make sure you stay tuned to the end of the stream because I'm going to be making some pretty big announcements for the competition as we are putting a bookmark in it. So stick around till the end. I'll have some announcements for y'all. But before we get there, I wanted to walk through the entire process of what was it like from the very beginning. And as we go way, way back in time to August, think it was August.
September, August.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to say it was August because I put out the call for community member invites. I think end of July.
Okay.
I remember I put out that call for any community members who wanted to be more involved, and I think we started talking sometime in August.
I think that
So
makes sense. Yeah.
it is my goal to put out community member invites probably once or twice a year for any members who want to be more involved in the community, want to develop their own live streams, or learn more about what the process looks like. I think I'll probably put out the next open call maybe in December. I think in December when I'm in a right place, and I'll probably be preparing for what's now going to be called the Right Nowathon at the end of December for our 1 year anniversary.
Perfect.
So as we look back towards August, and I know you had approached me, Penelope, I was very, very excited. I'd love to hear from you what your kind of initial ideas and concepts were for it, and we can kind of talk through what the process looked like.
Okay. Well, I might confuse a little bit because there's been an awful lot of conversations since then about and in the evolution of this idea. But when you had put out the call for submissions, I thought it would be fun to do some sort of writing competition in a more non-traditional way, because I'm a little frustrated with like the poetry competitions that I've involved myself in.
Mm-hmm.
So like you give them $25, you get a copy of the book, and to submit your poem, and you get a copy of the book for the $25 you send. You wait gobbers of months to find out if you've won anything, and I never have won one of those competitions. And so I thought, well, I knew I wanted to do some sort of flash fiction writing competition, I think is what I thought would be appropriate for something fast. And I wanted to do it, and I thought your writing community would benefit from something like this, because it could be start to finish process of publishing from idea to publication. So it would be that was kind of why I thought I'd talk to you about it, because you've got the writing brand, and it would be fun for people who haven't gone through that process to kind of in micro experience it. So come up with the idea, write it, edit it, send it in, get feedback on it, and then go through the competition process and then publication. So I thought that would be a lot of fun for your community. So that's when I gave you that very small bit of an idea, and you immediately turned it into something much more grandiose than I had ever intended. And I remember the two things that you immediately wanted to do with it was to live stream it somehow and to add Jezebel, because Jezebel, I had done the and I just done the Amazon Vela competition and lost that one. I'm really good at losing competition.
You mentioned Jezebel, and I start like coughing a lung out.
Right? Jezebel, leave him alone. It's just gonna last until shortly after Halloween. Sorry.
I know this wasn't intentional, but we have the skull in the background right here. You can only see the skull behind there, and then we have ML's skull right there.
ML, and then I've got my guy is just.
Oh, I guess we have to have all of our.
Yeah, we've all got.
We have all of our skeletons, don't we?
Yeah.
We're like, there we go. We're representing here with all of our bony friends.
So do you know why I think it was either, well, I don't know who said it first, but there was a rumor that I heard once in school at some point that the either Greek philosophers or the Romans, I'm not sure who, somebody in ancient over there-ishness where the Western world began, used to keep skulls on their desk to remind them of their own mortality. And so it's kind of a get things done, or else you're gonna look before you look like this, They were really big on
like that.
Yeah, they're really big on reminders. It's like, no, I know I love to procrastinate. So he kind of has a spot somewhere in the room usually, but I think it's just cool now. It's like, yeah, Greek philosophy, that's great. It's just a cool decoration. Anyway, you wanted to do.
I
Like,
know that when you originally pitched the ideas,
Mhm.
you were right. You set off with doing some type of contest. And I think when you had pitched it and when I had originally conceived it, I'm like, okay, this will be like something really easy. Well, like this will be like a single live stream,
Mhm.
and we'll like have people submit a few stories and we'll just read them on the stream.
Mhm.
And at the time, so there's two things between the Jezebel and then the
Okay.
so about the Jezebel thing and then the event itself. So I had always been planning on wanting to do more what I've now titled the writing or the holiday writing events.
Mhm.
That was always a goal of mine. As for those of you who joined us in July for our first holiday writing event, the 6-hour write-a-thon. So that was the very first one. It was a test trial to kind of see what it would look like. Now, what makes a writing holiday event different than our normal live streams? More people involved, more collaboration, more things, more involvement, more opportunities for writers is what I'm coming to learn. And I'm like, all right, well, what differentiates a writing holiday event from like a convention, right? Because they're or from like a virtual convention. And those are questions I had been asking myself of what does the process look like? So I knew that with a writing competition, I really wanted to try out something new. And I hadn't originally thought that it would be a writing competition. I had been playing around with a couple of ideas of like, okay, as a writing streamer, I knew NaNoWriMo was coming up and I had to do something for NaNoWriMo, but I didn't know what that was going to be. So I think when you pitched it, it was the right timing for something that I was already looking for. And then when you
Mhm.
pitch the competition, I think I think it could have been a video. It could have also been done as a video and it could have worked out just as well. But I think
Mhm.
with this community, because the Right Now community is really found the foundation of it is on a live stream experience. It's on daily live stream experience. I
Mhm.
think it makes sense to play into the live stream aspect of it.
Mhm.
And I think that was kind of my original thinking as we were like, okay, this is let's try a competition. And then I know we took weeks and it took us probably about a solid month to really think through what it would look like
Mhm.
logistically.
Mhm.
In terms of Jezebel, I had kind of envisioned it when you had originally had your stuff previously, and I
Mhm.
had seen your Jezebel character. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, well, Halloween is spooky. Jezebel is a spooky character. I'm like, that kind of seemed like that would be like a match made in heaven to have a spooky character with a spooky competition. I didn't know how we were going to bring it to life, but I
I
knew when I had
know,
originally
right?
pitched it, I'm like, I watch game streamers all the time. And I know they with faceless and AI content, I know how they're able to animate the AI stuff and do it. So I know it's possible to bring animated characters to life. I just
Mhm.
didn't know if it was possible for a live stream format or not. But before we even like touch on like the whole AI or the whole
The AI presenter.
Jezebel aspect, because that's a
Yeah.
whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Um, ML, I'd actually love to hear from you as kind of one of our community members. What was it like for you when you first heard about the competition back in September? What were your thoughts about it?
Well, I didn't know anything about what flash fiction was. So
Mm-hmm.
first I had to figure out what it was. Then I was excited because I wanted, I've never entered a writing competition before. So I was excited to enter. And once I did my research, I'm like, then I had to start questioning, can I write anything that will even resemble what my research says flash fiction is?
Mhm.
So,
And I'm curious, based off your research, like just in like a short summary, what did it feel like wins generally works for flash fiction?
well, most of my research said that, you were to uh, you were to leave most of the details very vague, allowing the reader to come up with their own conclusions about how the story ended, about, you know, it was you were supposed to be trying to tell a story in as few words as possible
Mhm.
and make it dramatic to where they
Okay.
were supposed to feel something from the story.
Mhm.
So
That totally makes sense. So it almost sounds like it's like the challenge is how do I get somebody to feel something in basically 4 pages?
Mm.
And I think that's the challenge of a piece of flash fiction. So I'm not surprised. And I would have to say, ML, even with your original submission and then the final submission we saw in the competition, that you put together a very sound story. It was a very, very sound story with a very clear character journey. And it had a very clear mystery and then the twist at the end of like, oh, did he survive? Did he not survive? It was
Well,
fun.
see,
And I actually thought it was a really great way that we started the competition with. I feel like it was actually very responsible for hyping up the competition itself on Friday.
the my story, I tried to put in two different things. One was not only to talk about the events that were going on,
Mm-hmm.
but then I had to weave in his self-loathing and how he was seen as a nothing by his family. So I was trying to weave those in together.
That totally
Because,
makes sense.
and I had to work fried rice into the story quite a few times.
that dang fried rice moment. And you know what somebody said to me? So after the competition, one of my friends said to me, and like I hadn't thought about this until beforehand, but they're like, Jared, I'm a camper. I have a cabin in the woods. I like to go out there. And the only thing that pulled me out was if I'm camping in the woods, there's no Chinese takeout near a cabin in the woods. So I'm like, I didn't even think about that. That went like right over. I'm like, but I mean, technically, I guess you could drive to like the town and go get Chinese takeout. I mean, when I went camping, the town was at least 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was interesting. I mean, I think that was the only note from that story. But like overall, though, my friend was like, "Oh wow, they were terrified by the creature, and they wanted to know whether the character died or lived at the end." I'm like, "Yeah, you and me both."
I mean, it's up for them to decide. But if I was saying, I believe he was bitten by the werewolf and he survived, but now he will probably, his family's business will probably have a contract out on him now. So
yeah, right. That could be your sequel. I thought the rice bit was fabulous. I absolutely love that callback to it. It was just, yes.
And I absolutely loved hearing Drake. Drake did a really great job doing your assignment reading. That was very cool.
He did do a very good job.
And then Courtney was like, when I go to the cabin, I get takeout. So like, there you go. Maybe there's like that thing. Like, I guess that's really debatable, right? Because the rice thing was my favorite. I love the rice bit because I'm like, that was referenced in like the first page as a very minimal thing. And it was an excellent use of foreshadowing that then proved to be an obstacle for the character when they really needed to get away. And I really loved that. Like, it's hard to do a lot of foreshadowing in 4 pages. Like, real talk. It's really hard. And I would absolutely commend you on that.
I always try to add humor to my writing. And I don't know how it played, but I tried to make it humorous when he was about to be eaten and he's more worried about being found dead in his underwear. So
awesome. So I think that was really, really cool, ML, especially when we first launched it. So I know that as we get into September and we started announcing and advertising the competition,
a lot of people went, what is Flash?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of when we set up Jezebel, because the Jezebel thing was actually really interesting.
I was thinking of that.
Because we did the images. I know you did the images for her early on because we needed that for advertising. But I
Yeah.
don't think we really figured out the logistics for Jezebel until around the time the submissions had already been done.
It was this perfect moment where two
Mhm.
people who had absolutely no idea how to do something, but had a
Mhm.
really good idea of what to do,
Mhm.
went, let's do this thing. And
Mhm.
you know, because I had like you had at least had a frame of reference for like we could
Mhm.
use this digital, like this AI character as a host, and
Mhm.
I was like, I don't know what that means, but it sounds cool. Let's do that. And I mean, I just, because I'd been using her to promote Useful Idiots as part
Mhm.
of my the Veli's
Mhm.
submission that I had done. And I had actually I created her specifically because I wanted to test out a particular market with
Mhm.
a particular marketing strategy.
Mhm.
And I wanted to dip my toe into paranormal romance and erotica. And I thought having a host was not something necessarily that audiences would anticipate, but it was something that I loved from like watching Elvira and the Crypt
Mhm.
Keeper. So
Which
I
that's
decided
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Jezebel is essentially a type of reincarnation of Elvira. And I
Mhm.
think that's great. And I think artists
Yes.
actually do things like that all the time. If you're looking for an idea or you're looking for something and you don't know what to do, go look at history. Look at
Mhm.
characters that worked well, things, promotions, marketing, things that worked well. And then you just figure out, how do I bring that to a new audience? Because the new audience, most people probably don't know who Elvira is. I'm sure
Mhm.
the majority of people might have heard her name at some point in time.
Maybe.
But
Yeah.
Elvira was what, 30
80s
years,
and
40,
90s.
80s,
80s
90s.
and 90s. Yeah.
So at least what's that, 30, 40 years ago. So
Mhm.
any of the newer generations just wouldn't be aware. So it's perfect
Yeah.
because
They don't.
clearly there was a love for that type of character.
There was. And actually,
Mhm.
she was a character from my first novel, The Love Spell Murders. And I
Mhm.
realized, like, I wanted to put some sort of characters so I could learn how to do social media. So I
Mhm.
wanted a visual icon that I could use because I wasn't comfortable using myself as
Mhm.
my advocate. So I wanted a
Mhm.
character to do that for me. So I used Jezebel as that in the beginning.
Mhm.
And then I realized I had this great character. I had this, on one hand, I had the books that my precious babies that I'm writing. On the other hand, I had this kind of Kindle Amazon venture that I was doing, and I was able to bridge both of those with the character of Jezebel. And you're right, like a lot of people haven't really had the pleasure of having like a hosted horror anthology series. So I
Mhm.
thought, I wanted to sort of reinvent that character for more of a modern age, but also to bring the joy that I got out of that kind of campy pun horror hostess vibe to a new generation of people who would appreciate that,
Mhm.
and I wanted it to be definitely a nod to the woman who came up with Elvira, because
Mhm.
Cassandra is just amazing, and she's actually from Manhattan, Kansas. Like, she was born there. So
Really?
like, we have, yeah, so I think that kind of really endeared me to her, because I'm also from Kansas and I also want to get out of here too.
Aw.
And so she had a
Aw.
date with Elvis once. A little
Mhm.
gossip, she had a date
Oh,
with
that's kind of cool,
Elvis.
actually. That's
That
kind
is
of cool.
so cool.
I think what I would say is about Jezebel as a character, I think Jezebel is incredible.
Mm.
Clearly, we had a little bit of a rivalry going on, which I
Yeah.
did not expect until the competition. And then I just played into it because it's awesome. And I'm sure we'll get to have more fun with Miss Jezebel in the future. But in the meantime, right, she's the host of your stories and your world. So people should definitely go check out Penelope's work over on, what's your website again?
Oh
PenelopeHartley.com.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
It's PenelopeHartley.com.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm. So definitely go check it out because Jezebel is an awesome character. Bringing her
Yes.
to life, we used one of those. We used a specific type of program, which
Mm-hmm.
props are going to Penelope for bringing it to life. We had discussed ways to go about it, but Penelope was more the logistics behind bringing Jezebel to life.
Mm-hmm.
When I look back on it and I think about the logistics of it, I'm very happy with what we came out with. I'm very,
Mm-hmm.
very happy. I think the next time we do it, I think we're going to be able to bring it to the next level, especially if we do something like this again, and if it's an option to do something with Jezebel. I think the technology only continues to get better.
Yes.
In addition to our experience and our understanding.
Can I just right quick, for the sake of transparency, explain how I created that character?
Yeah, go for it. Absolutely.
So I used where you stand on the debate on AI is up to you and your conscience. I don't mind using it for promotion. So Jezebel was used, and the program that I used to create her, the AI program I used to create her, uses commercially licensed images to create their images. So nobody actually, none of the artwork that was used to create Jezebel was stolen, but I did use AI to create an image of her. I had a concept of her that I co-created with ChatGPT. We discussed different models of how she could look, her appearance. We settled on black, long, wavy hair, the Victorian style dress, things like that. So all of these elements I did collaborate with some AI programs to do, because I wasn't quite sure how, because I wanted to leverage AI's capability and knowledge about what fans wanted, because this was going to be more of a broad, catering to a broader audience than my stuff is a little bit more fringe. So this was I wanted to see what audiences might like. So I used AI for those purposes to help collaborate on this character. And then, after that, she kind of took on a life of her own. She definitely, and I did use what is called the DID studio, which can create, I'm not a huge fan of using like human-based AI, because I love cartoons, I love animations, and that's the kind of stuff that I want to work with. So I use cartoon and comic-based AI to create her. And then what you did is you can choose a voice file or a voice, like how the voice sounds. And you can upload your own. So I uploaded an image of her and I uploaded a script. And that's how I created Jezebel for the competition, the intros and outros. Otherwise, I used Canva and edited images of her for, and sometimes I did some digital alterations myself. I'm getting a little bit knowledgeable with Procreate. So, but anyway, that's how I created and incorporated her into the contest and into the market.
Yeah, and I think once again, I was very happy with how it came out, because I didn't know it. I feel like Jezebel was a test and a trial for us on leveraging an AI program capability and bringing an animated character to life. Those of you in the community know that I'm very pro AI, but I'm pro AI in terms of improving efficiencies and processes, not for being a replacement to creative expression. I think that's an important defining. I think that's an important defining factor. And I think without a program like that, it wouldn't have been possible to bring Jezebel to life.
Not given the resources we had, no. And if I had more resources or different resources, I would have hired an illustrator and I would have hired a voice actor.
Exactly.
But I just don't have those resources right now. And this is a great way to get yourself, anybody who's interested in using AI, it's a great way to promote yourself and create visual images without like breaking the bank. So
there's a reason that faceless AI is doing very well as a genre. Yes. And I'm like, right, because it's the resources of being able to hire the right people and do the right things to really be able to maximize the quality. But regardless of that, I feel like that we did an amazing job, and Penelope, especially you did an amazing job with the resources we had. And I think that's at heart of what it takes to be scrappy when we're at this part of our journey. So I think absolutely, like Penelope, I was absolutely impressed. I want you to know that.
Thank you.
I had so much fun trying to evade Jezebel's spell the entire time. So I didn't know what I would expect with it. And then once we started getting like the videos and the format and the framework, and I saw it brought to life, I'm like, damn, that is so cool.
Yeah,
that is so cool. I want to do that for my own character now. I'm like, and I'm sure other people will as well, because like how special is that for somebody like, I don't have any animation experience, but for being able to do it in a way that's low cost to be able to bring one of your characters to life. And I think that's a beautiful process.
It was a lot of fun for me because I like I said, I was a Disney kid and I grew up on Don Bluth films. So animation, like you can tell I have almost a cartoonish cinematic style to my writing. And so I have a background in the arts too. I don't, not in animation, but like all I did was slap some, it took 3 or 4 months for me to get to where I'm at with the programs that I was using, but I used Canva and I used AI, and I've just figuring out it is incredible how powerful that these programs are for even the free version of them. I'm like, oh my gosh, you can create little videos with. So everything I did in Canva. And like, honestly, when we got to the intro last night for the competition, I really thought I outdid myself. I was super proud of how that came together.
I'm so happy that day 2 was so much smoother from a technical perspective.
And we got to see my beautiful.
I know. And we actually got to see Jezebel, and it worked, and like people could hear her, and there weren't any interruptions. And I was just very happy with that result. As we were approaching the competition, I would say that the consistency probably really picked up for us about a couple weeks beforehand, especially once we reached the submission deadline, once we went into the critique process, and then we realized on the back end how much more advertising we had to do that we had not planned for. I want to talk about this part of the competition as we got into October leading up to the event itself. How did it feel for you?
So like everything from like our initial conversation to October was pretty much waiting for October, because we had decided to kind of put everything into October. So my first comment, how was it for me? We did 2 months worth of work in 1 month. Because it was the first time we'd done it, we really had to be adaptive with the process. Like we had a very solid game plan going in, and that is all up to Jared. He was the one who sat down, pulled out the Google Doc, and started doing the outline for how this was going to do. And he had a very, very creative and solid vision of how it was going to look. Once we had decided to do live streaming, once we had decided it came down to fine tuning. I mean, all I had to do was input the idea into him, and he was like, he churned out this event, right? And then it became a process of fine tuning, like how many finalists were we going to have, how long could we, so just back into that process a little bit, fine tuning what we thought we could manage. And then we got to the part where we were like, oh yeah, this is manageable. And it was just like an incredible amount of work in a very limited amount of time. So it was double time at that point. Yeah. And it was like, okay, we had to roll with the punches. We didn't have enough time to really, it was like, cut it, print it, go next, you know? And so like, especially the final, like, once, I think that the first meeting that we had together where I was like, this is not what I expected, something a little bit more like, okay, yeah, prom, setting up for prom, right? And it wasn't. It was, we spent 6 hours trying to figure out, 4 to 6 hours, doing an elimination round for the finalists. And it was, oh my God, we went back and forth so many times to try to figure out how to do this fairly. That was our big thing, is we wanted to be absolutely fair to all of our competitors. And so we ended up having a lot of discussions about what is horror. And like
oh man, we went back and forth so much on the different genres. We're like, okay, so horror, thriller, supernatural, mystery, especially as we set up the guidelines for it. And setting up the guidelines for it was its own process within itself of like, okay, well, what are all the things that we need to state? What are the rules? What are the stipulations? And I felt like overall we did a good job. I know now on the back end, there's additional things more in regards to the anthology. And then in regards to some aspects of the live stream itself that I would add, which is why I'm not surprised that anyone who's put on a competition, their number one piece of advice is very clear rules and guidelines. So I think that's always, I'm like, yep, makes sense now after doing a competition. Right. But in terms of like that first part of it, I think what else stood out to me. Like I had a lot of fun hyping it up. I had a lot of fun talking about it.
Mhm.
I think choosing the finalists was hard. And and by the way, for those of you who let's see, for those of you who didn't make it as a finalist, once again, we've put out the offer to be able to read some of the stories that weren't accepted on the Monday streams. So we'll actually be reading the first one of them tomorrow. So I wanted to put that out, which will be super cool because I think it should be highlighted regardless the work that you guys did. And when I think about once we accepted them and we went through that process of like, okay, we're going to do the live critiques, and then we started doing the advertising. I think if I would have done that part of the process differently, we would have included the book covers and the blurb ask as part of the submission. Originally, and this is 100% credit to Penelope, we were not originally planning on advertising blurbs and book covers.
That's right.
That was not a plan for us. When we were in the critique phase and we were talking about it and we're like, okay, well, we're going to have to advertise the competition somehow outside of the original Jezebel ad, we realized we're like, okay, well, it would probably build up hype if we had individual photos, ads that we could then advertise for each story.
Yeah. So I spent a very fun afternoon like figuring out how to make book covers for everybody who didn't submit. I gave myself a lot of extra work that day, but I wanted you guys each to have your own book cover in the anthology, and I wanted that visual representation of your story to go with the blurb that we were going to advertise. So I hope you liked them.
Yeah, so that was a lot of, and I was really impressed with how the covers came out. It's like, I thought that was really, really cool. And let's see. So we did that. I was pretty happy with how the critiques went out. And I think everybody had a great critique. Every single one, we gave feedback. Some points, some of the writers pushed back on, and we're like, that's fine. It's your story. Do what you do. Because it's about the voting. It's going to be about how the community responds to it. And I was very happy with the stories that we had received. Now, as I think about the anthology, when we had first launched the idea of the fiction contest, we hadn't originally launched with the idea of doing a published anthology. But I think when it was thrown as an idea, part of the community, and I forgot, might have been Courtney or ML. I forgot, or maybe it could have been a WTC, but I remember somebody suggested as an idea. I think it was Courtney though. Yeah. I remember somebody suggested as an idea way early on into it. And we're like, that's actually perfect because that gives, and I think what I loved about it is I wanted to make everybody who became a finalist, I wanted to give them an incredible value proposition. So it was more about being part of the competition and less about the final result, because I believe that the author journey isn't about the end result. It's about the journey. Hence why authors tell you that to be successful and make a living as a writer, you got to publish many, many books. So, and I think that's always something that I like to highlight. Absolutely. So I think when we had finally gone with the anthology, we're like, okay, we'll make that a value add. And then the anthology itself kind of blew up into this thing that we hadn't been expecting. We hit the
how many times can we say that? It blew up into this thing we weren't expecting.
It went like the week before, like I realized, I'm like, okay, so they're going to give me their final stories and then I'm going to publish it to Amazon, but I can't publish it to Amazon if it's not edited. Like I can't publish unedited stuff,
right?
But there wasn't enough time to take it through a full developmental edit, line edit, copy edit, proofread, and the whole shebang. So I was like, okay, well, our options is either we draw out the process and we turn this publishing into a couple weeks, or we condense it so that way we can try to have the anthology ready by the competition. That was a huge strain on us, myself in particular. It was great. I loved it. Yeah. But I think in the future, if we do something like that again, we'll just have more time. We will extend deadlines and do things, have the deadline set a little sooner to be able to give ourselves that flexibility, in addition to making clear guidelines and rules for the anthology itself.
I think that
So
we kind of locked ourselves in by saying everything was going to happen in October. I think
mhm.
that because it
I,
made
which
sense
I think it was the right call. I think it was the
to do
right
that
call. I
way.
think we just
Yep.
didn't give ourselves enough time to do the things that we needed to do.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah. I
didn't
think,
realize those things that we needed to do until it was after the fact.
yeah.
Mhm.
Like it was due 5 minutes ago. We should probably get that done. I mean, and
So,
and things evolved as the community responded to it too. And
mhm.
I think, I mean, like I have zero regrets about the amount of work that I put into it, but I was surprised at the amount of work that I put into something like this. And I'm very pleased with the results, as a matter of fact. And I got to dress up as Spock, so I'm happy.
And as I think about that portion of the competition, welcome back, ML. Welcome, my friend. So, and this is actually perfect. So, like, I'm kind of curious, ML, as one of the finalists, what was that in October leading up to the competition? What was that like for you going through that process of like, okay, now you're a finalist, critique, revision, preparing for the competition? What did that feel like?
It, uh, you know, I I got my story in uh, soon, but it was still, you know, once we started having meetings and stuff, then there were new deadlines to meet and
Mhm.
stuff. So, and those were pretty, you know,
Pretty quick.
those were pretty tight deadlines.
Yeah,
But
those are really tight deadlines. Yeah, I agree. Because I remember we set the dates. And I'm like, shoot. Well, by the time we do this, we have to do it by this time. And I think the problem and the challenge for us was like we wanted to have the book published by the competition, and I think that was always the challenge that we set. And I don't think there would have been a way for us to do it differently under those circumstances unless we had done the submission deadline sooner, the critique sooner, and just spread that out more. And I think if we do something like this again, that's probably the way that I would go about it. But I mean, you did
you know,
great for like, regardless of the deadlines, everyone actually got the story in under the deadline. I was like surprised. I know it was a steep ask, but everyone did great on getting the revision back, yourself included.
well, for me, I I took Courtney's advice because
Mhm.
I was saying that I was in editing Hades, and Courtney says just submit it, and then you don't have to edit it anymore. So,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
what when you first announced it, I believe you said that it was going to be like 1,000 words. So then
Mhm.
later you changed it, upped it, and then I started trying to add more words, and it was just
Yeah, I think so flash fiction is categorically defined as a piece of writing that is 1000 words or less. When we had originally launched the idea back in September, we're like, all right, 1000 word flash fiction story, sure, let's go with it. And then we were kind of thinking about it and we're like, okay, well, 1000 words is hard. And I was like, I think it would be different if we had a community who was very experienced in flash fiction. But we saw from a lot of your guys' feedback and conversations that a lot of you were either A, new to flash fiction, or B, were writing in a new genre that you weren't as familiar with. And I'm not saying, yeah, I know you generally write, you're familiar with supernatural, so this was up your alley, so to speak. But I think for the community in general, we saw that. So we're like, okay, well, let's extend it a little bit so there's a little bit more flexibility up to that 1,500 word max. And I think that really helped. I want to say that 10 or 11 of the stories were probably between the 1,000 to 1,500 word mark, I believe. So clearly, I know everyone made a difference for everyone being able to tell their stories.
I think I ended up adding like 300 words,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes that was a blessing, and sometimes that was a curse.
Yeah. And I had such a missed opportunity. I created a video on how to write horror stories back in like March, and I forgot about the video. I didn't remember that I had created the video
What?
until like a day before the competition. And I think Courtney called me out for it. Somebody in the Discord was like, yeah, if only you should have done some type of like workshop on how to write horror or scary stories. And I was like, oh yeah, I did that like 6 months ago. And I was like, it didn't do well, but I think it's more because of the thumbnail. But I was like, yep, next time. So next time we do something that's like in a genre, I'll probably better plan some type of workshop for the community before in the weeks leading up to the submission deadline.
I honestly think it could be stretched out to 2 months. Like
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I think this was a 1 month competition, and I think the competition itself can be stretched out 2 months just in terms of the overall, like the lead up to it.
Yeah, because it'll give you more time to get the edits back and proofreading done, and then the anthology can come out well before the competition. Yeah, I think that just giving yourself a little bit more time a little breathing room, perhaps. I went hard the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you did both.
Yeah, I know you did. I'm just like, I wasn't expecting it, and I'm like, how does he keep moving? Like, I've been in a chair for 2 weeks.
I've been used to this. I've been used to this every single day for this year, and then I also have experience doing live events that have 10, 20, 30,000 or more people. So I have experience and I know what that production looks like and what the mindset looks like. So I have a little bit more of a background.
Like I never doubted you. Like there was never any point I went, does this guy know what he's doing? Except at the very end of the last day when you were doing the Grandpa Cough thing, I was like, I'm never live.
I know what he's doing
again. I know what he's doing.
Oh man. So as we get into the competition, this is actually perfect. So that actually brings us, because we planned the Discord costume party. For those of you who don't know, I didn't make the decision to include the Discord ad until I was about halfway through September. And this was after we had started advertising for the competition. And then I realized like, oh yeah, people love Discord. I hadn't used it before. I mean, I had used it, but not that much. And then when the community really took to the Discord, because lets everyone chat with each other when we're not on the live streams. And then I think it made it a natural evolution for us to be like, okay, well, how can we leverage the Discord in the live stream event? And so the Halloween pre-parties were born. And I think now is the perfect time to give that our honorable mention, our favorite costume of the Halloween parties. So we did the pre-Halloween parties on Friday and Saturday before the stream. Our favorite costume absolutely goes to, and we're just in luck that we get to award our favorite costume to our friend ML here.
Yep, absolutely agree.
So the missed opportunity for me was forgetting to ask everyone to take pictures. That was, I forgot. I wish I had remembered that. But ML had the greatest of all the costumes. Yeah, I know I only got to show up in there for like a brief moment on Friday, but Penelope, I'll give it to you because you ran with the costume parties a little bit.
Oh my gosh, yes, I did. I didn't know what to expect, but I popped in there and there were like 6 people dressed up, and I was like, yeah, my people. And Papa Legba, definitely, he had gone all out. He looked amazing. We also had Courtney dressing as a goth princess with her. If you'll remember, her story may have mentioned apple suckers, and she had one of those. And
I thought that was so clever that she was dressing up as the character.
Like absolutely. I'm trying to remember who else. Nil showed a picture.
Yeah, Nil's picture was really creepy, but in like the right way. It was like creepy in a good way. I'm like, great costume.
I think he was having some technical difficulties, so he couldn't join the party, but he was Poe. And Bobby dressed up as a priest, or sorry, a pastor. And Mary came as Mary, as a writer, as an authoress. I'm trying to remember if I'm missing somebody. I'm so sorry. I just can't. That was a.
No, we had some of our readers as well, and it was funny. One of our readers showed up, and they're like, "I didn't know that it was a Halloween costume," and I was like, and they're like, "I'm a starving writer."
Yeah.
All right, there you go, playing the part. So I thought that was really, really funny.
Yeah.
ML, do you want to just share like what was your costume specifically?
I was wondering. What I was going to ask was, Courtney, does kitty cat taste like chicken, or does it have a different? Because she, in her story, she really wants to eat that kitty. So, but no,
Courtney, how did it taste? Oh, that's hilarious. But ML, I'm curious though, what was your costume specifically?
it was based on in voodoo Papa Legba. He is a Loa. It's kind of like a god in voodoo.
Mhm.
He's the keeper of the crossroads. He if you want to make a deal to basically a deal with the devil, you have to go through him because he holds the keys.
I'm not too familiar with voodoo culture outside of what I've seen in mainstream, but that sounds like a really interesting character. That sounds like it really was. And
it's kind of like, have you seen like any of the American Horror Stories? Kevin, remember the
I was gonna say, is it that guy?
yeah,
from which season?
Okay.
Which season?
The witch season.
Oh, the witch season. I'm like, that's right. They brought the witches back a couple times in later seasons, but the Coven season was actually pretty decent. So yeah, I know which one you're talking about. That makes sense. That was cool. And you went all out with the face paint, and like I loved it. And you had like the whole costume. Like that was amazing.
It was fantastic.
I loved it.
Amazing. Yeah, good job.
I have to remember in the future to ask everyone to take pictures or to screenshot.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were, I felt so bad because you were so busy and you popped in and just looking so dapper and amazing. And you're like, hey, this is my costume. Is everybody cool? All right. I gotta go bye.
I was so busy. Oh my God. And I mean, as somebody who's essentially like, I was the producer of this event.
Well, producer, star, script writer, cameraman. Yeah, you did
life of a content creator, which I absolutely love, and I'm grateful that and I was grateful that to be able to put it on and be able to do it with you because I just had so much fun doing it. Yeah. I know for I had three costumes. Three costume changes. The Joker was my favorite one. I randomly found steampunk at the last second. I was like, all right, we'll just do something different. And then, of course, our belovable Grandpa Cough. I like it. It was probably one of the most challenging costume changes I've done in my entire life.
Are you gonna explain why?
So I knew that for us to get the effect, and I knew that I wanted it to be a surprise to the community because I know everyone loves the Grandpa Cough persona. I didn't think about it. I didn't think about the logistics of it until it was too late. Otherwise, I would have ordered more. So I'm looking around my place and trying to figure out like, okay, well, what's going to make me look older? I think the end result was like Indiana Grandpa Cough. And I think that's the end result I got, which I'm like, all right, that's cool. I like Indiana Jones, especially because of that hat. But the only way that I could make myself look older was I had to do something with the beard. I didn't have a wig. I originally bought Halloween stuff, but it just didn't work. So we're like rushing around before the event. And my family, one of them suggests like, well, if you want to make it white, why don't you just use baby powder? I was like, I've never thought about that before. We'll see how it goes. And I didn't even have time to test it. It was kind of a fingers crossed. So we're in the live stream itself on Sunday or on Saturday. And I know that I didn't want to leave Penelope on stream too long because you're not as used to it as I am. So I was like rushing. I'm like rushing in all my mind to try to like do it, get dressed and rechange in a reasonable amount of time. I literally rushed into the other room and like I had to like throw my clothes off and I'm just like grab the thing of baby powder and I'm just like pouring it everywhere. And I'm literally just like in a cloud of white powder because I was trying to get this effect. And I look at the mirror and my face is like chalk white. Like I literally look like a banshee. And I'm like, all right, maybe I went too much. So then I was like, crap, now I have to do a whole nother like just cleaning up. And I was like rubbing, but I realized with the baby powder, I'm like, it's literally going to get everywhere. Like I couldn't like not move too much without it falling off. So then I was trying to rub and try to be careful, and then putting back on the costume was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. But and especially because my setup in this studio is just very cramped. So for me to move out of the studio, costume change, come back in, close, get everything set back up was a very difficult experience. But I'm so happy with how it turned out. The way that you guys got to see the end effect. I actually thought the beard came out a lot cooler than I had anticipated. Like the beard was a much cooler thing than I'd anticipated. For like a normal costume, I don't think it would work because walking around, I just don't think it would stick. But like from a live stream, from just sitting down and cheering up, it actually, the effect actually looked really, really cool. And I think if I had found a hat that had been more of a maybe like a straw hat or something that might have looked a little bit more to match the character, it probably would have done better. But overall, like I loved how the beard came out. So that was a fun experience with my costume. Costume changes in a live event. And yeah, absolutely. ML, thank you for saying that. Doreen, thank you. Thank you for creating the story that allowed me to, that actually allowed me to do it. So like, thank you for that. I know even when we had read it, I remember we read it initially and we're like, I asked for Penelope's opinion first because I'm like, all right, I'm going to be biased because obviously it references me and the Scarecrow. So I'm going to be biased, but like, it is a good story though, right? And I remember Penelope was saying like, yeah, it's actually is a good story.
Yeah. I mean, like, and it's competition. Yeah, I thought so. I thought it definitely had Jeepers Creepers and the whole mythology of like the haunted Scarecrow, you know, which is one of the few ones I love because I live in cornfield land. So the idea of like haunted, like effigies roaming the countryside is, and I thought it was a solid story too. Absolutely. I don't think that either of us actually intended on doing a reading at the beginning of this, though. We had intended.
Yeah, our goal was to get 12 guest readers for the competition itself. And I think overall, I actually think I did get 12. But in the week leading up to it, we lost 2. We lost like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So, but we got pretty close. So, and even though we doubled up a couple, like all the readers did a phenomenal job. It was very, very fun. And once again, this is a huge thank you to any of our readers who showed up. If any of them are on the stream, you guys were awesome. Like they definitely deserve a call out. Wish I had prepared this. I was like, no, wait. Well, I will, I'll have to shout them out in the email follow-up. But I was like, all right, let me see if I can think off the top of my head. This is a huge thank you to all, I think, 9 of our readers on the stream, starting with Drake over from Releasing Your Inner Dragon and Starving Rider Studios. And then after Drake, we followed up with
Gunthron,
who's super cool. I like never met him on a stream before.
So
and he was literally perfect for the story. Yeah. We didn't know until the stream that he had a history with teaching philosophy in school. So like the fact that he just happened to be a philosophy teacher with that specific story was literally perfect. After Guthron, we had, was that Soul After?
Yeah, I think so. We had the next round started with, I have written these over and over again doing the advertising. I have no idea what was the order.
Yeah, so we had and I changed that. So we had Soul. Where did it go?
Read Orion's story.
Yeah, so we had Soul and then Dana and then Holly. So this is a huge thank you to you guys who showed up on Friday. And then our Saturday readers to Pat Olney, Natalie Locke, and Laura Nettles. All 3 of them were incredible. Yes. It was so cool getting to meet and continue to just chat with you guys. And I think all of the story readings were awesome. We're absolutely awesome. I think definitely a huge shout out for our Friday readers as we were kind of dealing with more of like the technical stuff of trying to figure out how how to make the things work.
How to make Jezebel go away long enough for us to do what we've got to do.
So as we think about the competition itself, what do you guys think of the competition? ML, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Between Freaky Friday and then Spooky Saturday, how did the entire thing feel for you as a viewer? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments. Drop a comment. What did you think of the competition itself? What did you like? What did you hate? What stood out to you guys? I'd love to hear.
I enjoyed watching the show, and it was, hearing the stories was great. I mean, because every one of the stories, were they were all different, and every one of them, had their own unique, view as to what horror was. And I think everybody did a wonderful job. And none of us really knew each other's story before. I was really curious. I wanted to hear what every story was. So
yeah, I think just a couple of call outs here. Courtney was like, I loved it. Agree with Eli in the Discord that I wish we could have pushed the schedule sooner, but I completely understand why we couldn't. But I completely agree. I think in the future, more timeline, absolutely. Our Curtis, very fun opportunity. Enjoyed seeing what everyone did. During, I think the trios were well matched. Was it hard to decide which ones to put together? Oh my god, yeah, don't even get us started on that. I think we spent a good couple hours just trying to figure out which one should be matched. We went back and forth on like, all right, do we randomly match them? Do we do a random pairing? Do we try to pair them based off genre? We didn't have enough of the ones to do same genre.
No.
And then we're like, okay, well, we have to. I think the challenge was how do we make each of them as even competition as possible. And that was very, very difficult.
And then to match it to the judges' availability, because we wanted to give each one the best reader, maximize the ability of the reader, but also maximize like the evenness within each. So we really we did a lot of algorithm-y type work just to put this thing together. I mean, there was a lot of discussion, but that again, which I loved working with Kauffman because he was so fair about everything, and he was taking every aspect of it into consideration to see what would give nobody a clear advantage over somebody else just by our own stupidity. So
yeah, I think the biggest there's two things I care. There was two things that I cared about was that the authors, all the finalists, felt like it was a fair round pairing, and then each of our guest readers who were giving up time felt like it was a fair story for them to read. So I think those two things, basically what you were saying, Jezebel, absolutely agreed.
I'm Penelope, but okay.
I said Jezebel, right? I'm just gonna start calling you Jezebel.
Oh, you think that's not going to cause any problems whatsoever? You go right ahead.
I'm gonna end up in the closet again.
Oh yes, you are. You're not gonna like it this time.
It was really, encouraging, to have the guest readers, talk about the stories afterwards, without, and say things that they liked, without saying, who gave me this piece of trash to read? But, it was, when somebody like Drake talks positive about your story, it makes you feel good.
Yeah,
I know. Penelope, that was something else we went back and forth so many times on how to do these discussions, because I wanted us to be able to like have a way to talk about the stories, and I'm sure like any of the stories we could always find improvements as writers. Like I'm sure even after I publish Scarecrow, I'll find 1,000 improvements in the years to follow. But I wanted to be able to highlight what was working for the stories, so that way all the discussions fell on an equal play field for the voting?
Well, when we made our selections, we made sure all of the stories were one of our criteria was readability. We wanted it to be able to be read online. So I mean, it wasn't like we were like, don't say anything bad, because it was like these stories are solid enough to be read, and we didn't want anybody. Yeah, like sometimes it's a little difficult to, as writers and editors, and not to critique things. But I thought everybody was genuinely excited about the story that they read. I didn't see anybody like, really questioning their like decisions on it. They were like, this part was great, and this part, and I thought this part was, they have found something that they were able to discuss, which each one of them, which was like Courtney was just saying, it was perfect hearing published authors talk about my work. It had me speechless. Like, that was probably seeing that was one of the reasons why I wanted to be a contributor rather than
Completely agreed.
It looks so fun to have your piece being read and understood by
it was just like, can I get Drake to put in writing that he compares my writing to Hitchcock?
So I think that was so cool. I love hearing that you guys really enjoyed it, especially both the live readings and the discussion as well. So that's really, really cool to hear. Neil was saying, I agree. Good pairings. It was fun trying to think in real time who to pick as each was read, debating if you should change your mind before the vote.
And we didn't give you long. We gave you 10 minutes to
we gave you guys, Oh, and the voting, that was a whole nother difficult thing. Us trying to figure out how do we do the voting process in a way that feels fair for a live competition. And I think that was very, very difficult. We
ended up having to go out and off-source the poll to a new one. Because Jared brought up, we were kind of figuring this out right before, because of course you've got the polling feature in YouTube, but we didn't, the disadvantage of that is that it shows the results, and we wanted to make the announcement of the results special at the end of the closing ceremony. So we had to quickly find a program that wasn't going to do that, that was going to conceal the results of the poll until Jezebel, after her 5-hour improvisational yorbling, decided to give you the winners.
So and I completely agree. I'm very happy about that. I just had a fun time putting the competition together. And I think as I've looked at the results so far from just the live stream aspect of it, I want to say this is a huge achievement for the community in general. The Friday and Saturday streams, Freaky Friday and Spooky Saturday, are now officially our highest volume, view, watch time, engagement across the board of streams so far in 300 live streams. And that's thanks to all of you guys. If you guys didn't show up, people wouldn't care about this. So the engagement, the community, and everything, thank you for showing up, and thank you for wanting to be involved. It was such a great experience for me to be able to be a part of this and be able to try to bring my showy personality while also trying to make it be a host and try to finagle all the operational aspect of it. Was such a pleasure.
It was nice seeing someone who I'd invited to view the competition, to see their comment going across the screen, so it let she is one of my beta readers, and so it was let me know that somebody out there cared enough to look at that Facebook post. Because I was trying to push out your post that you would put, so more things like that would be helpful for us to push out on our different social media and stuff. So
completely agreed. And I think, ML, that's actually a really, really great transition as we talk about now that we're on the tail end of this experience, now that we've kind of gone through the competition, and we've kind of been going through this journey the past Well, Penelope and myself have been going through it for about 2 months, and I know most of you have been going through it for maybe about a month and a half, 2 to 3 weeks, where it's really been active. And I know a lot of you have shared some great comments and some great feedback. Now is the time that I want to put out, what are things that you would like to see done differently? Drop a comment. I would really want to hear from you guys. I'm going to create a banner with some of the things that we've heard so far, but we really want to hear from you as I continue to think about for the like longevity of the channel in the future. And I'm like, all right, well, if I'm going to do something like this again, what are the logistical aspects of it? And is it worth the amount of time spent? And then what type of support does that look like to make it possible? Penelope, as you're like thinking about the event in general, are there any like major things where like, hey, that's like the one thing that I feel like we should have done differently or we would do differently next time?
I absolutely cannot go into the past and decide to do anything differently because I'm absolutely pleased with how it turned out. Anything that was uncomfortable was a learning experience. That being said, moving into the future, moving into the future, I would say that definitely giving whoever is the team to putting this together, because you've kind of got, I think that the basic structure that we came up with is super solid for this. I think it just needs tweaked. So I think that whatever team you put together, whoever is your co-host, your cameraman, they've got a lot of moving parts with something like this. So I think you could add a couple more people and it would be super helpful. And I think that you could definitely stretch out the from submission to anthology into at least 2 months to do it. You might even streamline it into one night, depending on the appeal of the genre and the time of year and stuff like that. So because 2 nights, I love doing 2 nights. I thought that because I really wanted to have as many people get their story out there as possible. So making it a 2-day event was a lot of fun. But that was also, I'm still yawning from it. So I don't know, like if I would even suggest like reducing like the number of like submission or finalists to like 6, perhaps, if you only wanted to do a 1-day event. But it was so sweet getting to see everybody's response because we were able to get 12 people's story read and critiqued by these amazing authors. So like part of me is like, yeah, make it easier on the people behind the camera and condense it. But on the other hand, the absolute joy on people's faces that came from having that experience was made the sleepless night worth it, you know? So, other than that, like, just don't like let me ever dress up as Jezebel again because it didn't work out. Like I made a much better Spock than I did Jezebel. So that's
Jezebel.
Jezebel.
Yeah. Like I need to create a meme.
Yes,
Grandpa,
Grandpa cough. Jezebel.
Yeah,
so it looks
like
like
Courtney,
people have ideas. Wow.
Which I absolutely love. And I know Courtney, speaking to the advertising of it, if you want more for November, you can start posting shorts or something shareable or having a team for making shareables. So yeah, that really goes into the advertising aspect of it, starting the advertising sooner. And it's like we had the plan to start it sooner, but I think it's creating the copy and the strategy for it sooner than when we had started it for everyone to be able to push it. I completely agree. Big events, what they do is they usually bring on a team of people, and that team is usually just advertising and just pushing out socials. I completely agree with that, Courtney. Thanks for sharing that. Let's see. And then Nil was saying, just idea, maybe groups of 4 and have 2 readers reading 2 stories and they vote on the winner. The community vote is the tiebreaker. Then last day rank the top 3, first, second, third. Maybe groups of 4 and have 2 readers reading 2 stories. Gotcha. So 2, 4, 6A. So less of the readers. So basically doing less readers, less stories, so to speak. But not doing the top ones by the group, but doing an overall.
I like the idea of having both a popular vote, like a vote from the community for their favorite, but also having kind of a judge's choice as well. I really enjoyed. I think that kind of there's 2 different sets of criteria when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to that, because your judges, if they're editors and authors, are going to be more particular about like the mechanics that go into the style, the world
Mm-hmm.
building, things like that. But the community is just they want to be entertained, right? So like there's kind
Yeah,
of all
and
those
like
different kind of
I
criteria.
remember when we were talking about this, Penelope, because we went back and forth originally from
Mm-hmm.
do we bring judges on or do we have the community vote? And I think when we had thought about it, I was like, okay, well, I want judges normally, yes, but as like for live streaming, it feels
Mm-hmm.
like we the community should have a say as a live stream experience.
Absolutely
But
agree
now,
with that.
after
Yeah.
the fact, and now that I'm thinking back on it, I think what I was afraid of happening, and I didn't realize this till way too close to the event, was that we didn't want the voting to become a popularity contest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, with the writing events, I think we were successful in giving writers more opportunities to write,
Mm-hmm.
giving more writers a platform, giving a publishing credit, and we'll get into the anthology in just a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think giving them more writers the opportunity, we were successful on. I think if I were to do this in the future, I completely agree with you. I think a judging aspect would allow the focus to remain on the writing, while a community voting aspect could also be beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
But I think doing it in a way where it can be continue to push the fun and appeal and not have it feel like, oh, you need to vote, and that there's a monetary prize behind the community voting.
The participation I think is essential for a community like this, but I believe that it can be done in a particular way that does also honor the merits of the work itself, which I had, just as an example, like this distinction, because I was in one of my discussion classes in poetry in grad school, and we were talking about something like this. What is the appeal of something that has a literary matter versus something that's more like fun? And my professor and my thesis chair had said that she got a copy back when Netflix was still sending out DVDs in the mail. She got a copy of
DVD.
Yeah, exactly. Ask Grandpa Cough, he'll know.
Grandpa Cough DVD.
And if you don't know, Netflix back in the day would send you out DVD copies of the films that you, or the TV series that you wanted to buy. And she got Schindler's List.
Mm-hmm.
And she said she put Schindler's List on top of her TV and it sat there for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she knew she was supposed to watch it, she didn't want to wade through the depths of it and the heaviness of it. So I just from a perspective of like, but she reads her birthday cards right away because they got cute little jingles on the, you know what I mean? So like there's an entertainment and an emotional appeal that people really respond to in a voting aspect. And then there's more like thoughtful considerations that go on behind more of a more serious criteria for judging. So I think that absolutely that competitions like this can honor both of them and everybody can still have a really good time.
Yep, I agree. And I think this community, the Right Now community, is uniquely situated to be able to create and evolve the competition in the writing competition industry. I believe that because of the live stream aspect and because of like just the value and the needs of what everybody wants. So I think we're actually are very uniquely situated to be able to do something that still elevates the community experience. So I completely agree with that. Really, really great points. I know Curtis said the revision process from draft to final published version so that there aren't surprise changes. Revisions from what was written to what ends up on the page. Absolutely agreed. Yep. Completely agreed. And I think to be able to fix that, it's really just giving more time. It's really just doing things sooner. So that way there's time for these stories to go through the entire editing process instead of one part of the editing process and skipping the other parts because of the short timeline. I completely agree with you. And especially because there's the published aspect with it, I think that will really help as well. Thanks for the feedback, Curtis. And I'm going to touch upon the anthology in just a second because I have an announcement for it. But
you did a really great job with that, by the way. That was,
hard.
Incredibly
hard. I didn't know what type of work I had to do until after the fact. And I was just like, well, I had to get it like because Amazon has a review period. So I'm like, I have to get it by a certain date, and I was lucky that the published anthology went live on Friday. It went live Friday in the middle of the event. I was like, thank God.
Yeah,
I was
because
like, so that was one
worked
win.
so hard on that. Like, I don't know if you even got any sleep that day, but like,
there was like a couple of days where I think I had like 2 or 3 hours of sleep, but I'm like, it's worth it. I want to see it brought to life. I'm fine. I can forego it for a few days.
Down and got it done, and then got it to me, and I was like, great, now I have to deal. No, I'm just kidding. Great, now I get to deal with it. It's my turn. So Kauffman did the editing and put it together, and I used Atticus, which I had just gotten, which was a fun little learning curve right at the very end, to figure out how to format.
Penelope did the formatting aspect of it,
which was fun. I
enjoyed
that.
Very, very cool.
And that's also when I created all the covers too, because I wanted everybody to have a cover in the anthology. And we wanted,
which was very cool. So if anybody likes the format and like design of the book, nope, this way. No, this way. All right, I'm not going to figure out my left and my
there
right.
you are. You're over here in my room.
I was like, you are there. Penelope is the one who should be thanked.
If you hated it, it's Jezebel's fault.
Let's see. Courtney was saying, or the one-day event is the top 6 from the judges, and we pick top 3 or something like that.
Okay.
That could be another facet of it. Absolutely. WTC was saying lower it to 6 finalists and up the word count at 3,000. That would put the anthology at around 18,000, which works for that. That would, and I think there will definitely be an opportunity for larger pieces of stories. The reason we went with flash fiction, and this is just what I've learned from 300 days of streaming, is that I wanted to make the barrier to entry as low as possible. And it's easy for a writer to feel like, oh, flash fiction, 1,000 words, 4 pages, as compared to 18,000, which would be that'd probably be like 20 pages, I think.
It'd also be like
probably
half an hour of reading out loud, and that can be.
I think
if you're not Jared Kauffman, it can be fatiguing.
There is a way to do it, but just for this type of competition, I think that's why we went with flash fiction. But I think there's actually there's definitely an opportunity to do something like that. It would just be a slightly different format in a way that values whoever submits and whoever is involved in the reading experience. Courtney is like, maybe do a March Madness sort of competition with brackets. I mean, that's actually another way of doing a bracketed tiered system. I hadn't thought about brackets. That's actually an interesting. That'd be an interesting another approach to it. I kind of like that. I'd have to think about a bracket system. Let's see. No, it was like more words could be good. I wonder if 3K might be too long. Yeah, so maybe 2K. So kind of along the same lines.
Yeah, unless you just wanted to do strictly an anthology judged behind the scenes and put that out, that would be. But I mean, like, honestly, it was really surprising when Jared said we should do this as like incorporate some element of live stream to it. But I would never have taken that. I would have said, really? That's actually what I did say. Really? Like, okay, that's cool, whatever, yeah, sure. And now I never would have taken that out, because that has been the absolutely most fun part. So yeah, I think that flash fiction is a difficult. It can be very hard to write a very cool story in under like 1,000 words. But on the other hand, for the purposes of like this competition and what it was trying to achieve, I think it is the perfect word count, because anything over that, you're going to have judges reading for like half an hour at a time, and you're going to have if potentially more submissions, which I wouldn't have thought that flash fiction would have been a barrier to submissions, but people might have been more comfortable with short stories. But that would have made like a lot more submissions than we already have.
I think it would just be a different experience. And I can tell I can tell from Doreen's comment here that's similar to some of what you guys were saying. Maybe 4 Fridays of the month, stories are read and voted on, then a Saturday winners party and vote for the final winner. Yeah, so, and that kind of goes along the same lines of it, just spreading it out. And I think I'm seeing a very similar sentiment of spreading out the competition, either doing less stories for a weekend competition or spreading it out over a longer period of time, not just the submission process, but the competition itself. So I've seen a couple of you guys were sharing that. Let's see. Courtney's like, I truly wasn't expecting it to be ready for this weekend. I thought we were pushing it after the event. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either until too late, let me tell you. But I realized if the reason I wanted to make it ready for the competition was so that way we could push it for anybody who wanted to get a copy of it during the competition itself.
Yeah.
And I think that was the biggest thing.
I mean, you get the t-shirt at the concert, so you know, like it wanted it to be there.
Awesome. So I think that's been some incredible feedback.
What
Thank you
about
all for sharing that. I think that was really, really helpful. Penelope and I we'll discuss in the weeks to follow what worked, what didn't work, and all in the as I plan for 2025. Well, we're already almost in November. As I start planning for the 2025 holiday writing events, I'll say more if we're going to bring this back, and if we do, in what capacity. Absolutely. So thank you all for sharing that. Now, with the feedback out of the way, anthology. So let's talk about the flash fiction anthology. So we first off, let me go here. For anybody who doesn't have the link yet, I should have had the link pulled up. For anybody who doesn't have the link yet, possibly, you can actually find it very easily on just by searching Freaky Friday Anthology on Amazon.
Yes. Yeah, you just have to scroll through like the Jamie Lee Curtis version of Freaky Friday. You just look for Jezebel. She's on the front. It made it on the front page.
Yeah, you know, yesterday I was at the top.
Was it really?
Like, oh no, we got beat by a much bigger franchise. And did you find it on your end? Can you drop the link? Oh, I found it. Okay. Perfect. So I will drop this here. So I'm going to drop this here for anybody who doesn't yet have the link, who wants to go check it out. Now, oh, that did not copy. I just dropped Freaky Friday. I'm like,
just said Freaky Friday.
That's helpful.
Freaky Friday.
Wow.
Oh, look at that URL. That's a beaut.
Yeah, I'm like, that URL.
That's at least 12 inches.
I'm like, what the heck? Like,
and it still isn't done. So it like, here, you talk. You're good at the talking bit. I'll go find this link. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I was like, the URL should not be that long. That's stupid.
It's so long they had to put it in a second message. It's my favorite.
I am deleting that because that's like not even like usable. Okay. So Penelope goes and finds that. So with the anthology, like I said, if we do this again, we'll definitely do more a longer timeline and a longer amount of time to be able to do the anthology itself. So that way there's more time to go through the entire editing process. The stories, obviously, I feel like they went through an alpha reading, which was basically mine and Penelope's original review of it. It went through the alpha read. You guys fixed the revisions, and then it went through an edit. The stage that it missed was the proofread. And then in addition to that, you guys weren't included on the proofreading part of the process. Now for the live stream, like, sure, I can understand that for a live stream event, but for the anthology, right, for you to feel proud as an author, you want to feel happy about your story, your work out there. And that was something that we didn't take into consideration. I know a couple of you shared feedback like, hey, you know, there's some things that you changed. I wasn't expecting it. And I wanted to, there's just some things that you changed that we weren't expecting. And I think part of that was an opportunity for myself in just clarifying what the specific timeline looked like for the anthology. Part of that was because of the last minute nature to putting it together, but I definitely take ownership for that. Yeah. So I definitely take ownership for that and recognize that that's so important for you to feel proud of your work. So with that being said, I'm actually going to be making an additional adjustment, an additional revision to the Freaky Friday anthology on Amazon. What that means, if you've gone through your story and you want to and you're like, hey, there's a couple of these mistakes, or maybe he changed certain like either grammar or certain style, and you're like, hey, you know what, oh, like, great, thank you, Jared, for editing, but I would have done this. That's totally all right. I'm going to give you the opportunity and the chance to be able to send me a proofread revision. Now, I say proofread because Amazon allows us to update the core work on it, the core file, with a revision. And when I say revision, it means that less than 10% of the file can be changed, which means that you can send me a proofread copy of yours if there's like, okay, I want to make changes here. However, because I'm only going to be able to change below 10%, and that's 10% of all 12 stories. So since I can only change such a small amount, I'm only going to be able to allow for each of you to suggest 3 to 5 fixes. I think about 3 to 5. So that way where Amazon will accept it. You won't be able to change any story elements, but you can change like if there's certain like grammar, if there's certain like grammar opportunities, or if there's like need to replace like certain word choices. I'm going to send that in an email out to all of you sometime after the stream to kind of just clarify what that looks like. But I want everyone to feel proud. I really do. I really want each of you to feel proud of your work out there. So I'll send the email today with exactly what we're looking for. So that way you could do a proofread. I'm really calling it a proofread to fix any final things, which got skipped before the competition. So I'm not surprised there's a couple things missing because we skipped the proofread. So I'm like not surprised. A, I rushed the editing job to begin with, and then B, it didn't get another final pass over, which I think that goes to show, right, why proofreading before you publish is so important. Proofreading is so important. So I think with that, I'll send out that email after. It will allow you guys to make some changes, and then I will submit the revised version. We'll get that in sometime end of next week. So that way anyone that gets pushed towards it, we can make sure they get the best copy that you can feel proud of.
Yeah.
So that'll be next week. Also, after thinking about it, I launched it on Amazon. We're going to... I launched on Amazon. I think I'm going to elect it to be on Kindle Unlimited.
Okay.
On the Kindle Unlimited, because I think it'll get pushed to a larger audience. What I'm going to do with the proceeds, so the way that I'm thinking about this, I'm not actually going to touch any of the money that comes in from it. I'm going to actually include each of you in the journey in 1 month, 2 months, however it is. I'll include you in the analytics to show how much money it actually makes. And then we can vote on it as a community, how we want to use the money.
That's a really great idea.
So because I really want it to be it was a community anthology. And I elected to make it to put the core story behind a paywall because when we think about pricing our books, when you do something for free, that minimizes people's perception of its value. And I wanted anybody who's interested in buying it, telling your friends and family of like, hey, I did this thing. I want them to know that there's value in it. And we know that there's value in it because we here in the community. But people who are not in the community are more likely to value it because they have to pay some type of money, which on Amazon, it's $3, right? $3 is not that great of an investment. So that's why I did put it behind a paywall. I then did it as an additional thing to the YouTube membership, which I had already planned on launching. Yeah, but I think with the community aspect of it, I think because I want to make it a community process, I'm going to probably do a live stream either in December or January. I'm going to show you guys the analytics. We'll walk through it and then we can vote on, hey, how do we want to use the money? My goal was like, if it does make any money, I didn't actually think there was going to be that many people that would buy it at all outside of our friends and family. But if it does generate anything, and recognize that this is if for each purchase, Amazon takes out 30% after each purchase. So that's roughly, and then after taxes, that's roughly like what, 160. maybe 150, 160 after for each copy of the book sold. And that is before I move it to Kindle Unlimited, which then it is calculated. You get paid out like it's like 0.00 something cent per each page read. So I'm going to keep you guys in the loop in the process. And I actually think it'll be really cool. We'll vote on it whenever I announce this stream, and we'll see what we actually want to use it on, whether like you guys want to use it on like the Discord to making the Discord better, or maybe you guys want to use it for like another community writing holiday event. I'm totally open to it. So it'll be super cool. All right. So I think that's everything that I have on the anthology. And I think I saw there was a few questions that popped up. You're muted, Penelope.
I don't have anything worth saying anyway. Courtney asked about whether or not her mom would be affected with her purchase already, and I just told her that she would have the original proof.
How about the days when you had a large console? Yeah, I could have sworn there was another one, but that might have been the question.
She said she's been.
Yeah. So it's from Kauffman has had too much coffee. As much. Tell me about it.
I can only imagine that.
But I love it. This has been my lifestyle all year. So like I know Penelope. Well, this has been a newer experience for you. This is like this is like a Monday for me. So I'm like.
I went into his cave and came back out and like, do you realize how much caffeine happens in there? Oh my God.
Penelope, you know how you're feeling right now is how I felt after doing the write-a-thon back in back in July. So I remember I was like, am I able to do a 6-hour live stream? And I did it all by myself, and it was a doozy, let me tell you. And I just felt like
I can only imagine. After. Yeah. I've decided to do a little bit of live streaming myself starting in November. I think I told you about that. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm only going to go on for an hour a couple times a week. It's going to be real groovy and cool. And like, I'm not doing it for 3 hours. I got to take more potty breaks than you apparently.
But remember that I also did, up until I did the 6-hour one, I had probably 150 live streams. And I think I did a solid 60 days before I made the critique shows, like 2 to 3 hours. So like I put in enough reps so that I was had built up enough stamina for myself.
Yeah. I feel like I saw you running by and I decided to run with you, and then like I had to keep running with you, and I was like, I don't like running. This is effort, no, I mean, like, I absolutely, like, I love having a project in front of me that needs to be finished. I love like becoming very obsessed with things. So like, this is not outside of my wheelhouse to drop everything else in my life and to just dive deeply into a scenario like this. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a bit older now, or maybe
it's actually very common
after my back hurts.
After any type of event. And obviously this was just a virtual event, but like in-person events, like you usually have to recover for like a week. Now for a virtual event, like it's probably going to take about a week of just mental recovery. But that's actually very normal.
I love how you're like, okay, yes, this is what to expect when you come off of the high from the event high. It's going to take you about a week to feel like a human being again.
Yeah. Now imagine if this was an event that had 100 people attached.
God, no, I would not like to imagine that at all. Thank you. That's my horror flash fiction submission. The 100-person event by Penelope Hartley.
But to address Courtney's question, you're like, my mom has already bought it. Will it affect her? No. So basically, whenever we resubmit the revision to Amazon, they'll basically replace it with that current version of it. So anyone who purchases it at that point in time, it will affect. And once again, like I wouldn't say that the version up there now is bad. I actually think it's a very quality version. I think there's I would say during the live stream itself, I probably caught about 2 to 3 errors in some of the stories. And I think none of them were big. A lot of them were like grammar, like, oh yeah, a comma should have been there, or like, oh, that word choice there was probably a better word choice for it, or things like that. Nothing that really impacted the story. The average reader isn't going to notice the difference. Us as writers will always notice the difference. So if as thanks, Courtney, if you do want to get your mom a copy, I mean, I will, and this actually goes to the next part. For each of our finalists, I'll be sending out with the email today. I'll obviously be sending out the anthology itself, our current version. So like once we get the final version and we update it, I'd be happy to send your mom a copy.
I have a quick question for you and for the community, actually.
All right, go for it.
Oh, just like concerning the version. I just wanted to, if you could specify if you wanted the EPUB version or the PDF version. If you're going to be reading it on a phone or a tablet, you'll probably want the EPUB version. If you're going to be reading it on a computer, you'll probably want the PDF version. So just throw that in the email. And I think you have well, are you going to give those after we do the proofreading?
Well, I'm going to send out the copies, the copy today, which will probably be
and they can use that to proof it.
I mean, I think the individual ones will probably be Word docs. So I'll have to send them out the Word docs. That way they can change it themselves.
Okay.
But I'm going to have to set up very clear guidelines for how to change it. And I'll include all this in the email.
Yeah.
So I'll send that out. I will also send everyone a version of, sounds like we could send both the PDF and the ebook version. Like I'm fine with that. For you guys, because each of you who wrote a story, like absolutely, like you should have access to it. Absolutely. But good, really good question, Penelope. And I love that idea and helps us learn in the background of publishing on Amazon. Yeah, friends, like I said, this is my first time publishing a book. So like while I've been writing for 25 years, this is my first time undertaking a publishing book. So it's a learning process for me as well. Yeah. It's all part of the process. I really want to include you guys in the journey.
Yeah, this has been so hands-on for the community. I've loved that aspect of it.
No, it was like maybe clip the readings into a single video podcast to help promo. Yeah, and with live events, they actually do this a lot. So you guys will see if you're into any sort of like live music event or live convention, what they'll do is in the weeks after the event ends, their production team will usually their post team will usually put together a highlight reel, which is then used as advertisement through the course of the next year to then get people to buy tickets 6 months leading up to the event. I'm not saying that's what we're going to do, but that's generally the average standard. I'll probably do a similar highlight version if we do end up doing this again next year. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, like I would like to see an annual Freaky Friday for you guys. Not sure to what, just not sure what to what extent I'll be able to participate in it, but I would love it if it kept going because I think I think like you said, it was the right pitch at the right time for right now. The right pitch at the right time for right now.
Absolutely agree.
And if you wanted to, I could probably dust Jezebel off once a year. Just to come say hi and screw with your
scare us, lock me in the basement again.
Yeah, she enjoyed that. She said thank you.
People to buy as my that's cool. Buy for
I know,
Christmas.
Doreen. Yeah,
that'd be cool. Yeah, and I'll let you guys know in the Discord once we get a little further into the year and when I'll start doing those the live streams too for the analytics side of it. I'll keep you guys updated on that.
Do you want any advertising for the anthology itself from me? Jezebel themed advertising that you could throw up every once in a while. Like, how do you guys want to do that for the? I mean, because like, yeah, the event's over, but you still got the handbook for it. So. Do you think you should promote it?
Yeah, I think that's a really great call out, Penelope. I'd say let's we'll think about it and we'll chat about it offline.
It sounds good. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll stop being chatty.
I was like, I'm not going to be like, all right, Penelope, next month you got to start getting out ads for the book. But I thought it was done 2 months from now. All right, you got to start advertising for next year. 3 months from now. All right, we got to start putting Jezebel together.
I actually put all of that stuff in my completed folder and I was like, yeah, all right, it's done. Oh, that's a little tear down my cheek, but it's over. And now you got me terrified. And I'm going to have to roll it all out again. You're like, I need 18 videos by tomorrow. Jezebel's only got one side.
So with that, I have one final announcement. for the flash fiction for this event. Okay. So this, like I said, this has been quite an experience. It has definitely been quite a journey going through this. One of the biggest pieces of advice that was given to me when I was doing research was make your guidelines and your submission guidelines and rules as clear as possible. I feel like I achieved that in certain aspects, and other aspects I did not. It was very, 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 it was extremely difficult for me to come to this decision because I didn't know how, A, I didn't know how it would be perceived. And then B, I also like believe in trying to live in my values and live in my values of being honest, upfront, truthful with the community. So trying to balance that out while also not making anyone feel in any way, shape, or form negative, while also highlighting the submission guidelines and rules that everyone agreed to when submitting for the contest. I take ownership for this. I came to a difficult decision, and due to a not following the correct guidelines during the live stream competition, not following our rules. And I think, to be fair, that's probably the most I'm going to be able to say. But as a result of not following our rules and guidelines, we had 4 winners for the competition. Mm-hmm. One of the winners, I had to disqualify. I know everyone's going to want to know why. I'm not going to be able to share the logistics, but what I can say is that due to this disqualification, this is going to end up resulting in us choosing one of the follow-up runner mm-hmm. for as one of the winners. Mm-hmm. So I had to disqualify Marta from being a winner of the live stream competition. Which means that as the runner-up, our next winner spot and role goes to Courtney. So Courtney, I want to congratulate you because I think your story was really, really incredible. You are now going to be added to the winners list and the winners promo. I will be DMing you afterwards with a little bit more details and kind of what to expect. Mm-hmm. All of our emails and follow-up will be following the competition, but I just want to say congratulations. I know it was this was a very, very difficult decision for me on the one hand, because I didn't know what the right choice and call was. On the other hand, I feel very, very happy and proud because I think, Courtney, you absolutely deserve it. I think you put in a lot of work, and based on the voting results, you were definitely the clear runner-up. Mm-hmm. So I just want to say absolutely congratulations.
Yes.
Courtney, you'll be joining our other 3 winners. Who round A, it was Curtis. I know Curtis, you were the winner of round A. Let's see, round B was, I'm like remembering our winners now.
I can never remember.
Megan, M. Irene. Right. So yes. Curtis won with If They Find the Bodies. And I guess I can, I have the cute thing. I was like, I might as well just pull up. Yeah, I might as well just pull up the promo. That's actually probably a good idea.
We have a promo for that.
Well, I put them together. I just didn't save the file for the 4 winners that I'd put up.
Oh, okay.
But I'll show the cover art. So, and from the live stream, I like mixed everything up because I was trying to like make it easier on myself.
Yeah.
So for our winner of round A, it was Curtis Bowling with If They Find the Bodies, which was super cool. So Curtis, congrats. Really, really well deserved, my friend. Absolutely, really, really cool. So you were the winner of round A. Thank you so much. And then the winner of round B was M. Irene, was short on breath. Absolutely incredible. Really, really awesome. And then our new winner of round C is now going to Miss Courtney Stevenson with Laughing in the Dark. Really, really great work, Courtney. I'm like so honored to be able to include you in this process. And then our winner of round D is our Lovable Hillbillies with Night of the Hillbilly with Brock Cooper. So those are our 4 winners. Once again, congratulations to the voting. To each of you guys, each of you deserve your spots. Really, really great work. For those of you who didn't make the winners list, like, just feel proud that everyone, regardless of the winners, everyone made the anthology. So the anthology is still going to have the 12 stories, and the published author credit does not change. So I just want to keep that in mind, because I know if I were to enter a competition and I didn't win, I'd be disappointed. Like, I know how I would feel. But once I got over the disappointment, I'd be like, yeah, dude, my name's in an anthology. Like, I could advertise the heck out of that for future stuff. So definitely make sure to add, and make sure that whether you submitted, whether you were a finalist, or whether you were a winner, that it still gets added to your author resume. So that's really, really important to me.
You guys did an amazing job, and it has been so much fun. I'm so glad that my little idea turned into this, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I did.
Awesome. And I think with that, clearly everybody was super excited here. There's a lot of love. Congrats, Courtney. Congrats. Well deserved. Your story was so cool. Absolutely well deserved. Your win was too, Curtis. You knocked it out of the park with your story. Absolutely a lot of love. WTC. I'm so sorry I didn't make the winners list. Wait, I didn't enter it. Never mind.
You had the
WTC maybe next year.
You had the honor of writing Jezebel's first piece of fan fiction and calling her out from the ether to terrorize us with her tech problems. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
And I think on that note, we're hitting the 2-hour mark. And I think, Penelope, with your yawning, it's probably time for us to go get some coffee.
It's my nap time.
Right, it's time for my nap. I thought I was off. No more working. All right, we're working for the next 3 months straight. But once again, guys, really congratulate yourself for being involved in this. Yes. And everyone, please, I want you to go shout out in the Discord and message Penelope and tell her how incredible she was for putting this together.
Yes, please. I love it. I love the attention. Go ahead and tell me how awesome I was. And tell Jared while you're at it too, because he's the mastermind behind this whole thing, truly.
So everyone, thank you so much. I know today's our live stream. Today was our Sunday live stream. I'll be back tomorrow with our Monday update stream. And for those of you I was like, I guess I probably need to put the adventure right now. Tomorrow we're starting the next holiday writing event. So I'm going into the next round with Cat Soul, which is once again going to be so cool. The adventure right now is going to be such a fun experience. Let me throw this. I just want to throw the link on here. For those of you who haven't checked it out yet, I'm going to throw the link in the chat right now. If you want to go check out the rules, guidelines, and let us know if you're interested in being involved with us. Starting tomorrow, we're starting on the Adventure Right Now holiday writing event, where we're going to write a story as a community. That's awesome. So it's going to be super cool. You can be less involved and just hop on the Saturday live streams and throw out ideas, or you can be more involved and you can write parts of the story yourself. Cool. So the link is going to show you the details. We'll walk through it tomorrow and what it actually looks like. And that's all that I got for you. I appreciate you, my friends. I'll be back tomorrow, probably around 3 or 4. We appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Get some sleep. And that is all that we got for you. All right. Later, friends. Like the stream on your way out. Thanks, Amel. I know I was like, no outro today. All right. Thanks,
Good job, Amel.